You're all by yourself. It's just so unusual.
Yeah.
Yes. My sister.
Yes, I have maybe three. I don't have any.
John,
I don't have a. I told her not. Okay, so obviously, no one wants to be right in front of it, so, well, I'll try to remember to turn my head from side to side. So thank you, Lou. Okay, so what have we been talking about lately? You haven't been here. Do you know what we talked about last week, Lou? Oh, I'm on the spot. Oh.
Start from scratch.
Start from scratch. That's sort of what we have to do every week anyway, So I think we've been talking about staying. That when we have a strong state of mind arise, like fear or anxiety or anger or sadness, that we're trying to learn how to stay and not indulge it or suppress it. That sounds somewhat familiar, maybe. Okay. I just want to pretend like I'm not just starting in the middle somewhere, but I probably will be. So there we go. So anyway, let's just start by getting ourselves present here, just by kind of taking a moment to go within and just checking in with our bodies, make sure that you're aware of their presence here, so we can let go of getting here and let go of our planning for the future and try to experience what's happening now. And then if you can find your breath going in and out of the body, either at the tip of your nose or at your belly, just follow your breath for a moment. Not engaging with any thoughts that arise. Just keeping your attention on the breath. Letting the mind settle down. It's really not about settling the thoughts. It's just settling yourself in the still part of the mind beneath all those thoughts. And remember the reason you came this morning. And try to generate a positive intention to use your time well. And combine that intention with the wish that it not only benefits your own mind, but that it ripples out to benefit those around you. So now just try to find a gold prayer book. And we'll recite the 4 immeasurables on page 34. Hey, so may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. So part of what the Buddha's teachings are about is really trying to genuinely mean these 4 things. You know, that is not just this, oh yeah, that sounds good. Of course, may all beings be happy, be free of suffering. What we're trying to do is cultivate our good qualities, our compassion, our kindness, our generosity, to include more and more living beings until, a few eons from now, we include everybody. So it's whether, no matter, again, it's based on equanimity. It's not based on whether they're helping you or hurting you or whether they're strangers. It's just because you know what it's like to suffer and you know everyone is suffering and you wish them, just like you wish for yourself to be free of suffering, you wish everyone's free of suffering. Just like you wish for happiness, you wish everyone has happiness and the causes of happiness. And then too, that knowing that equanimity, this not, just wanting this for your friends, or the people you like, that equanimity itself is a more peaceful state than grasping at your friends and pushing away your enemies. That in and of itself is a better starting point. It's not something that we have to worry about in terms of having friends. We need friends, no problem. We also have preferences. So, the people that I want to hang out with are not going to be the same people that other people want to hang out with. So that's just preference. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. What we have a tendency to do, though, is grasp after the people that we consider, my loved ones, my friends, my family, as if somehow they're more important than other people's friends and family and loved ones. And that enemies, we really don't care what happens to them. And this, of course, is not, we're not going to ever get world peace this way, So it's just about taking qualities we already have. We have evidence of it because of the way we do treat our loved ones, our friends, and just recognizing, the mind and heart's the same word, recognizing that there's no limits to that. If, if the people that we love do not suffer because we include more people. If there's no problem with it. The mind's not physical. We can include everyone. It's not a problem. Yeah.
Is that the point of the loving kindness meditation?
Which one? May I be at peace? Which one?
Or you think of people that you
Yes.
have that great feeling about kids, expand it to your broader family, and then people that you don't even know about, and then your enemies.
Right.
Try to have that same feeling.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's discovered because we have these good qualities. It's not that we aren't familiar with wishing someone we care about to be free of suffering. It naturally arises when we see them suffer. So it's not something we have to learn how to do. We just want to expand the field. Just recognizing that we really are capable of thinking about everybody this way. What comes up for you when you think of it that way? Are there any? Yeah.
I've done some thought experiments where I have said, okay, there are people engaged. On the left is, let's say, my son or something like that. On the right is another person, and having to make choices. Let's say, and I do that to try to understand this a little bit because I realize I really have a strong attachment to someone who's a family member, for example.
Which is, yeah, of course. So if I heard you correctly, because I'm hearing this louder than you. So let's see. So that you try to experiment with your mind where you picture like one of your loved ones, like a son, and then other people, I guess. And then if they're in danger and you had to choose like who to save, it is very interesting to me that we go to these extremes. How often does that happen to you? No, doesn't really, does it? But it's very interesting that that's where we go. As if somehow the thought that we could care for others in the same way we care for our own precious child threatens that child. And it's not true. That's what we have to understand, that compassion's a state of mind. There's room. There's room in our hearts and our minds for everyone. This doesn't mean that, it's like trying to learn that everyone is suffering. Oh, I meant to bring that. Okay, remind me. I have a little clip of a train. No, I don't know what it. Yeah, I guess it's part of a training program in a hospital to remind and everyone who works in the hospital that everybody's got something going on. It's not just the patients; it's also the nurses. It's also the I don't know what the people call. I don't know that I used to when I got out of high school. My first job was working in a hospital, so I used to know what everybody's role was called. But now I don't have a clue. That's probably a good sign. I haven't spent a whole lot of time in the hospital, but anyway, everybody, and then of course the people who are being treated at the hospital have stories, and so it's just, and we don't know what they are. You might know what their illness is, but you have no idea the context they're experiencing it in. That might not be their only story. So it's about recognizing that everybody we interact with all day long, day after day, year in, year out, everybody that we see on the street, driving cars, on buses, whether we know them or not, everybody's got something going on. So just like you, when you try to settle the mind, they've got all these thoughts, worries, problems they're thinking about, But this is the state of sentient beings, This is what having a mind is doing for us so far. This is the thing. And lives are hard, and there's loss everywhere, There's pain everywhere. This is the state of things. So when we're receiving actions of speech and body towards us that seem unkind or unskillful or over the top or however we're perceiving them, we can pause to remember this is another suffering living being, just like me. Doesn't excuse acting out behavior. That's not what it's about. It just means remembering this is not some alien creature, that is trying to get you. It is someone who's trying to remove their suffering and have happiness, and they don't know what they're doing. Just like me. So it's a way to put a little distance between, what we perceive happening to us, and recognize what you've got here are living beings, who have the entire world around them, coming together in perhaps an unskillful way in that moment. And that it's not always going to be like that. But this is just one moment. But we can recognize that if someone, because if we look at what's going on with us when we're using unskillful speech, or when we're angry, or when we're being self-centered, or, that there's something going on with us. So we want to get familiar with what's going on with us. So that when someone else is behaving the same way towards us, we know, oh, this has a context. I don't have to judge them for this. Now, what gets in the way of that? Hardly. Are we that kind to ourselves? Or do we judge ourselves? So we've practiced a lot of judging. So we want to look at that, we want to be aware of that too. So one of our obstacles to being able to, it depends. Our culture is pretty, we have a pretty giving culture in this country. We're very charitable. We give lots and lots of, individuals give lots and lots of money. If you look at all the money that's donated, it mostly comes from individuals who don't have heaps and heaps and heaps of money. Fortunately, people who have heaps of money also give, but the majority of money doesn't come from those people. Who's aliens from another planet? I'm just looking at my mind. So we have this wonderful habit of caring for others, or at least putting their needs into account and all this stuff. We might do it better for strangers than people in our near circle, but we just need to recognize that if we're better at treating others than we are at ourselves, then we need to kind of look at how we treat others and start emulating that when we're treating ourselves. If we treat ourselves worse than we treat others, but in the reverse, So, we just look where the skill is. If you have the skill towards others, then use that to help bolster how, you're, to encourage you changing your habits with yourself, So, but we need to understand that every moment of our mind that is spent judging ourselves or others is making that habit stronger. So it is to everybody's benefit if we soften the hold we have on these habits. Because if it's an obstacle to us being able to look at someone who is, not, it's just behavior, as the Buddha says, behavior is unkind, speech is unkind. It appears that there's nothing kind in them. So that we can see the suffering and not have a judgment block that. So we can respond to the suffering, not to our judgment, or not to that feeling of, hey, don't take it out on me, which is all about us. So when we get really judgmental in our mind, when we're observing our mind, we realize, oh my goodness, all I'm doing is judging. We could, say, well, maybe I should be looking at myself as opposed to worrying about all these other people, labeling them, this, that, the other thing, because we spend a lot of time on others. And we might want to look to see if it's skillful time or unskillful time. We often divert ourselves from our own minds, looking at whether our habits of mind are skillful or not skillful, by distracting us with our judgments of others. And vice versa. The key is that instead of spending time judging, we just get to know. Like instead of, like if we have a thought of greed arise, instead of going, I'm being greedy, bad, we just get to know, like, what's going on then. What are the conditions that this greed is arisen? And then we can kind of, often we just kind of go, oh, I just think that's just my habit of thinking, ooh, if I get more of whatever, I'll be happy. And I know that's not true. So I'm not going to follow this thought. And, you just chuckle. I was laughing at myself when I came in this morning because my mind was such a mess on the way here. It's just like I was nervous and then, I was running late. So I'm always nervous. But I was also running late. So that was just fueling it. My mind was so ridiculous. So, we don't have to give our thoughts power. We can recognize when we know they're not even true. It's just a habit. It is such a strong habit. We just keep on having those thoughts arise, but we don't have to listen. We don't have to act from that place at all, and so instead of going to a judgmental place, if we can respond with a kind, loving, kind of amused place, it's a lot easier to shift the energy. To just, and the same is true when we're dealing with others. Like, if our friends or our family are not treating us very well in a given moment, we can remember this is a suffering sentient being that's having a moment. So, and put some distance as opposed to judging them. How dare you treat me this way? Well, instead we come at it from, the how can I help you place? What's going on? Or at least not bite the hook. Like Emma Children says, don't bite the hook. Because then it just becomes, oh, here we are again. Let's have a little fight. Or let's make each other miserable in this moment. So what that requires is getting familiar with our discomfort so that we don't just act from that place where we go, oh, maybe a button's been pressed. Maybe I can just stay until it passes as opposed to speak or roll my eyes or whatever I want to do from habit. And this is very difficult to do, to stay. Yes, no, maybe so, yes.
So if you help somebody and you're trying to be helpful and it causes you discomfort, how do you work that out?
Like, do you count?
Well, like say you have somebody who's in need of help.
Right.
Like really help, like having them move in or something, and you know that it's gonna disrupt your life.
Yeah, and?
And you want to help that person, how do you and you know that person's really in need, and it's not like just
So where do you look?
giving to a charity that you don't even know who these people are, but you know this person and you really want to help them.
Do you really, really want to help them?
Yes.
Then what's the problem?
Well, it's going to cause a lot of disruption in my life doing that.
So what do you have to
And
look at?
discomfort.
So,
At my being good to myself. I mean, that's kind of like not taking care of myself because I know I'll have to give. So that's.
what do you think that is?
Selfishness.
Bingo! Yeah, this is our self-judgment. Oh, if it's going to cause me discomfort, sorry, I can't go there. It doesn't mean we can always go there. I mean, we have to look at the big picture. But we need to recognize when those first thoughts, oh, this, I know they really need my help, but I'm not so sure I want to give up this help, whatever. We want to look at that and say, okay, this makes me uncomfortable. Is there any good reason that I can't tolerate this discomfort? Because we think happiness is having no discomfort, don't we? Well, that's not true. Can you imagine never having a single challenge in your life? No. Yes.
But what about looking at the situation and seeing, okay, so which parts of this situation can I not deal with? Having somebody in the house all the time?
Right. This is exactly right.
Can I take a walk, like a long walk every evening, except, right after dinner? Or can I get somebody in to, if it's going to be more work to cook, well, can I do something to help the cooking? Or can I don't know.
Yeah, this is what we have to explore. We have to first, but we don't take the fact that, this makes me, just even the thought makes me uncomfortable. We want to go, so what? We want to go, okay, that's the unknown. Okay, but what are the actual difficulties? So it's like, if you don't live alone, for example, then you have other people to consider. If we all have our boundaries, so we need boundaries. So if we kind of go, well, I could do this for probably a month, then you set boundaries. Then you have to go, what are the consequences of me doing this? Can I live with the consequences if after a month they still can't leave because they have no place to go? Am I still willing to kick them out or let them stay longer? We want to look at, what we can tolerate, because, and then we stretch a little bit. It's a balancing act. Just a second. We need to understand that if we give beyond our capacity to give and then resent it, what do we end up doing? Mm-hmm. Whose fault is that? It's our own, but who do we think's fault it is? Them. They didn't cooperate. I set boundaries and now they've broken them. Blah, blah, blah. We blame them when really we didn't look at the consequences. Or we're not willing to follow through. This is where self-care comes in. Not everybody has to like us. I don't have to like all our decisions. You know? So we have to really look. You know, if we know, I think a month would be it, or maybe it'd be a week, you know, whatever. You know, that you can be comfortable with not extending.
It's like treating yourself with equanimity.
Yes, exactly so. That's exactly right. So instead of putting this other person's needs above yours or putting your needs above theirs, to try to figure out that middle. You know, I'm not the most important person in the picture. They're not the most important person in the picture. We're both important. We're equally important. Where can we, you know, so how can I actually confidently help? We might still have discomfort because we've never helped someone this way, you know, or that it's just scary, their situation. You know, we don't know what's going to happen. You know, we want to, you know, this is why we want to get familiar, you know, and just stay with the discomfort till it passes and then explore. Ooh, don't like this discomfort. So don't say anything. You know, we don't make good decisions when we're in a state of mind that is a disturbing emotion. When our mind is agitated, it is distorted. It can't see wisdom. So acting in that moment is not skillful. So we have to wait till that passes. And the only really way to do that is to stay and let it pass. As soon as we try to deflect it, you know, that's just suppressing it. If we keep trying to feed it, ooh, yeah, I can see why I'd be uncomfortable with this. Look at all the possible problems, blah, 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 blah. We're just feeding the discomfort. We need the discomfort to settle. And then we use our more wisdom mind to try to sort it out. And then that discomfort will come back. And you have to kind of let it pass. You know, we just have to accept that it's not easy.
So it's not any more important to help people in your immediate surroundings as it is to help others out there, like in a charity, like they're all just as important. Because I sometimes think, gee, here I am, you know, I have somebody right there that needs help that I can touch. And then, you know, so.
I'll get to that. Did you want to throw in your question first?
Oh, it's just a couple of things. One is, I think that compassion motivated by an aversion to guilt is maybe not necessary.
It's not compassion, yeah.
And the other thing is, I think you also have to consider how the person is going to make use of your help. And they could use your help to do something even more destructive to themselves.
Well, that's a huge story you just added on. You know, so I mean, it's like, for one thing, if you can't read someone else's mind, if you don't know their karma, if you don't know their past, they don't know their future, you're guessing.
But if you do,
But if you do, then that's another factor. But we have to really be clean about this and not, because otherwise what we do is rationalize our behavior, using them as an excuse. So we want to be, and this is not easy to do. We just do the best we can. We just try to keep it clean, clear. And then it gets all messy. And then we try to get it clean, clear. And part of the process of that is letting whatever strong or disturbing states of mind arise subside before we make decisions. Because those are clouding our judgment. So it's not about help or not help. It's about not turning help into poison. You know, not turning self-care into poison. You know, we don't want to turn self-care into self-cherishing. We don't want to turn for self-centeredness, and we don't want to turn, you know, helping others into, you know, to regret and resentment. That's turning it into poison. So we kind of have to feel our way through so that we can give, you know, and sometimes give a little more than we're comfortable with, but not give it to the point where we break. Because then we won't do it again. You know, we want to encourage ourselves before I go to you. I want to deal with this closeness and farness thing. So we have karmic connections with the people who are very close in our lives, our family members, our coworkers, our friends. These are strong karmic connections. That's why they're close to us in our lives. So of course, you know, it makes sense to help them. You know, I mean, this is, you know, we couldn't survive if parents didn't have a certain amount of wanting to take care of their children. You know, we need that. So it's about learning about equanimity, however. That it's just, you know, we don't just help people who help us. What is that?
Business.
That's business. You know, we've just created an emotional contract. That, you know, so we want to be very careful of that. It's not tit for tat. You know, that it's just, you know, oh, I have this opportunity. This is, you know, like you know, when I lived in the nuns community and needed everything, you know, I would just put it out there, not to the people I got along with or the people I felt like, you know, it was okay for me to reveal my weakness so I could get there. So I would just put it out to the nuns community and see if anybody could help, you know, and if, you know, so it's this, we can't always help. We don't have the skills to help in every situation. That's okay, you know. But when we can help, we want to look at whether we can help. You know? Worrying about whether or not someone takes our help and turns it into poison for them is something we don't have a whole lot of control about. You know. So trying to control it is about us. So we want to be careful, you know, about getting very judgmental about who we help. We have to use our wisdom, but we just want to watch our minds at the same time, you know. So there's a lot of help out there if we have family or friends that have addictions. You know, we can get a lot of help with trying to sort what is enabling behavior, what is compassionate behavior for people who have particular kinds of problems, because it takes a certain real skill of knowledge to discern those things, to be actually helpful, you know, and not make the situations, not be a condition for the situation to be worse. You know, but in just everyday life, you know, when we're faced with opportunities to help, you know, we can, we investigate whether this is something we can get into and help or not. You know, a lot of things don't require any big thought. You know, sure, I can stop at the grocery store and pick you up some milk. You know, other things take a little more thought. Someone over here. Yes.
There's a real difference between discomfort and injury.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine to endure some discomfort. It's not fine to inflict injury on yourself or those to whom you're already with. I used to foster dogs that had been abused and had fear aggression issues. And I have a couple of good scars from the results of that, and that they were often destructive in all kinds of ways. It's amazing what a little love does to rehabilitate that, which makes me think about people.
Right.
Possibly not as quickly to be rehabilitated as dogs. But I stopped doing it because I didn't have the right to inflict injury on other people
Right.
that I live with now, or on, you know, my landlord's property.
Well, this is the thing. So we have to really explore, and it's always best to explore it at the discomfort stage, not the injury stage, unless, oops, we missed it. And then there we are. So we have to explore it then. You know, it's just that, you know, this being comfortable, for me, I mean, a lot of people talk about, that there's fear behind it. And I think there is fear behind all of these things. I think fear is behind discomfort. And for me, that I can describe that as I really don't like knowing. I want to know the outcome. I don't want to guess. And really what the Buddha is saying, no need to guess, and you're not going to know. You have to come from a different place. And so for me, a lot of those decisions are about what can I tolerate in myself? What do I want to do? If I was my best self, not that there is such a thing, but what would I do? It's that old, like if His Holiness were here, what would I say? And that can help me stretch. At the same time, we have to get familiar with our limitations, those spots where, I'm not ready. The Buddha, a lot of the Buddhist stories are about before he was a Buddha, the Jakarta tales and stuff about him doing these out, like throwing himself in the fire so that the starving tiger cubs wouldn't starve to death, because he knows that there's going to be another life. The consciousness keeps going. So, we don't do that before we're ready. That'd be just like, excuse me, go ahead and bite me. It's not like that. We have to really understand that when attachment arises, when we've gone a little too far, and this kind of like, either I don't feel safe, or I've spent too much money on you and I need more of that back, that's going to poison it. And we really want to try to stay within the lines. Let's color in the lines, and we won't know what those are. So we do the best we can. We keep uncovering. We remember past experiences and go, okay. So we can kind of gauge where we are in the process and decide whether to help or not help. It's because it's not a test. There's not somebody going, okay, let's see, check. Oh, you failed, straight to the hell roads. It isn't like that. So it's really about looking at your mind and going, and not just accepting like, ooh, I don't like to feel uncomfortable, so I think I won't go there. Well, we're not going to grow that way. We need to really understand that the discomfort usually just signals that groundlessness, that we don't know, that we're not sure. And that's understandable. We don't know. We want to learn to get comfortable with that. Because so much of reality is not knowing. That's the reality.
And the disappointment if it doesn't turn out like you expected because you helped.
Oh, that's so deadly. There's so many deadly things about that statement, because yes, that's right. If you help from the perspective, I want this to happen when I help, you're setting yourself up and you're setting the other person up. You've made a contract. It's business. So it's really about, and the good news is, you don't have to stay there. So say you do something, and you go, this is not working for me. You stop doing it. We have choices in every moment. And every moment when we go, it's your fault. I can't make a choice because of you. It's a lie. We need to recognize, and take responsibility for our actions. If our thought, including our thoughts. If we're feeling, I'm starting to resent this, that's a clue. You want to step back and go, okay. After the resentment has passed, then you evaluate. Are you being selfish, greedy, blah, 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 having, your expectations being dashed? Is it, is there any, is anybody harming you? Whatever. You want to be able to, investigate so you can just make a choice again of which way you want to stretch. You might need to stretch towards self-care, but you might also want to stretch towards cherishing others. It's a process. And it's not because of the beings doing it, it's, we're not Buddhas. We're going to make mistakes all along the way. And instead of going, wow, I should have never gotten involved, that's judgment. And also it's turning a virtuous act of helping into a non-virtuous act of not wanting to help. As opposed to just saying, this is beyond my scope. I need to stop now. Does that make sense? None of this is easy. It gets easier though, because you have less resentment. You feel more genuine when you offer because you've really explored whether this is, something you can do or not, or that you're willing to find out if you can do it. It takes a lot of relying on your inner wisdom. This is trust. I can stop this if I need to stop it. I can walk away if I need to walk away. I can do more if I find out there's more space for it.
Requires getting to know our minds. So, and this is my question. So yesterday I had dinner with a friend and we were talking about happiness. And he asked me, so what's happiness? And I was like, oh, wow. And I was like dumbfounded. I was like, I'm really not sure how I would define happiness. So I thought maybe you could offer at this point just an idea of how to get to that idea. What constitutes my own happiness? How do I define?
It's an absence of suffering.
That's right. So that's what I came up with. Absence of suffering. I'm sorry to interrupt it.
No, it's an absence of suffering.
Right. Okay. That's what I actually just
Really think about that for a moment. What would it be like? Just sit here for a moment. Close your eyes, just sit here for a moment, and try to imagine not a single cell of your body hurting, not a single worry arising in the mind, no sense of want or need. That no change is necessary. There's just no suffering present. There's no incorrect state of mind. Suffering arises from our incorrect states of mind. Okay, back to suffering.
So can I just add that because everything it seems then, like even let's say in the absence of suffering, tends to imply some sort of judgment or value system about what is or isn't.
Oh, now you're just getting all caught up in semantics.
Well, that's the issue, right? Because
No, that's not the
what I
issue.
mean is, well,
Slow down.
Okay, right. So I don't mean that it's necessarily the issue in terms of the essence.
That's what we're trying to get at. Is the essence of things.
But in conversation, what happens is, what I'm just talking about my experience, what happens is I tend to get involved in that idea that there's judgments and values placed on different choices. This is good, this is bad.
That's suffering.
It is. So, in the absence of that,
Only because you're thinking entirely dualistic. So that's what you're doing.
Well, not necessarily all the time, but I'm trying to have a conversation with others, that's what we're traveling to sometimes.
That's why sometimes it really doesn't help to try to explain. I mean, to me, the thought of absence of suffering is indescribable. I really can't imagine it. You know, this path is about experiencing it, not imagining it, you know, because it's unimaginable. You know,
So in terms of expectation, like I set a lot of expectations. We don't know we're doing it right until we're frustrated.
I go, oh.
And now I'm starting to catch that where I'm frustrated and I'm like, I'm only frustrated because I expected this person to act differently, or I hope that they would, or something's amiss because they're not acting how I think that they should. So then I try to just like let it go. It keeps happening. Let it go. It keeps happening.
Yep.
Does that ever get better if
Yes.
you realize, or it just
Well, first, it would be yes, of course it gets better, you know, because it loses its power. But we really do want to try to notice when we're setting them. You know, like, so if you make a plan or to do this, you know, or whatever, or a list of things that, you know, a coworker, you know, is going to help you with or whatever, you really want to be aware of the expectations in it. You know, because we need to remove those. Because you could have the best plan in the world and have it implemented precisely, and it doesn't work. You know, so having an expectation that things are supposed to turn out a certain way is a setup. It's a suffering mind to begin with, because it's grasping after a certain way. It's again grasping that it's out here where happiness lives, contentment is, as opposed to just recognizing, I've come up with a plan. We'll see. And just not holding in every moment the future. It's like, it's just that when the future becomes the present moment, then you deal with that. But this insistence that somehow, you know, we can hold on to these moments and plan for these moments is inaccurate. It's just not true. And so we need to recognize when we're setting ourselves up for that, you know, and that can help reduce it. So you can laugh at yourself. So you can sit there going, oh, and you can just directly ask yourself, what do I think is going to happen with this? You know, so that you can really look at what your hope, you know, the results that you hope for are. And then you can remove the stuff that's just not even controllable. You know, because we already have some wisdom around these things. It's not like we're totally, you know, ignorant of the fact that things don't, you know, you can't schedule other people in terms of how they're going to respond, you know, in the context of their lives. You know, they could be dead tomorrow, you know, so don't hang your hook on that, you know, this is the thing, you know, things are constantly changing. And anytime we're holding on to something being a certain way in the future, we're setting ourselves up. Because we have no idea. Yeah.
So when we were doing a little exercise of imagining perfect happiness, the first thing that kind of left me was
No, we weren't imagining perfect happiness.
Or just imagining being in a state without suffering.
Without suffering,
Without
yes.
suffering was a loss of, well, I mean, just kind of a dissolution of motivation.
You see, this is what's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
What does that tell you about how you think?
That everything I do has a reason based on suffering.
No, that everything has that we're addicted to sensation.
I felt the same way. I felt sort of like lost, like, whoa, where I go? Am I dead? You know, I'm not even alive.
See, to me, yeah, and this is what you want to explore. Because to me, if I really let myself accept this idea of a state of no suffering, I have to admit that I think bliss might be there. I resist that. You know, because right now I'm addicted to things happening. Please, please entertain me, or at least do something, this is boring,
Boring that came up.
Yep.
Bored.
But all that is a symptom of suffering. Boredom is want. I want something to be different. Getting comfortable with just what is can help us with comfortable with the absence of suffering. How many of us are addicted to chaos? How many of us just feel helpful when, there's a crisis? So we have to have them because otherwise we have no purpose. This is nuts. If you really just step back and look and go, well, this isn't a good plan. We might want to look at a different way to approach contentment, as opposed to the I've got to have a fix method, which is, basically what we do when we keep chasing after comfort things or excitement or entertainment or anything but sitting here with myself moments.
Following along, but it's still kind of hard to grasp. Like, it seems like then, should you be able to get into bliss, it would actually every action would be just reaction, right? Because you would just be waiting without the need for suffering, without anything. So,
I completely disagree,
okay.
but I'm not sure I can explain why I disagree. Waiting is suffering.
Waiting itself is suffering.
Yeah, think about it. Somebody has to check. I'm waiting for something to happen. It's not happening yet. I'm still waiting. That is not being. That's holding on to the future. What's next? What's next? Most of us don't even live our lives because we're already in the next. We're thinking about the next and we miss the now. We just keep missing the now. I'm sorry, I'm still in the next. And so this is a habit that we have because we keep thinking, surely, eventually, what's next is happiness. Please, I've been waiting so long. Please let happiness be what's next. What the Buddha is trying to tell us is it's already here, folks. We need to quit grasping at suffering. What we experience as pleasure is the suffering of change. So it's really already present, this peace and not grasping. We just keep our habits keep obscuring it from us. And we just want to look at that. We don't want to judge ourselves for it. This is what we're all doing, But if we want to reduce the amount of edge we live with from moment to moment, we need to start getting familiar with the stillness. And that takes tolerating the discomfort of trying to find that stillness, being able to sit. I don't mean informal meditation, although that's where you practice. That's where it's helpful because you're giving yourself good conditions to practice. But when you're when you're out in your activity of whatever it is, and something happens, and we feel the urge to react, if we've taught ourselves a little bit about waiting, staying, we can see, how we want to respond and choose instead of reacting. But if we live in the future, it's hard to find that choice moment. Yeah.
I just had an aha moment. When I was in college, I read the Bhagavad Gita, And there's this line from one of the translations of it that stuck with me the whole time, and I've never understood it until just now, which is Krishna says to Arjuna, do not act rightly, do not be attached to the material consequences of your actions. And I've never, obviously it bothered me then, and it bothered me, and now I finally get it. It's that attachment. You put a pretty picture in your head of what is going to happen, or you put an ugly picture in your head of what's going to happen if you act rightly. And then you get yourself attached to it. It's the attachment that causes the problem.
Right.
You just need to act rightly. I've never understood that until just now, so thank you. It's
Well,
bothered
this
me
is-
for too long.
It's on me, it's you, so it's, it's a, something ripens and then finally, this is our obstacles. Our obstacles make us not be able to find our wisdom. And then the obstacles, there are moments when they're like, not there. Grab those ones. So, and that's why you stay there. This is why in meditation, when you're analyzing something and investigating something and reflecting on something, when you have these moments where you kind of go, oh, you want to stay because you want it to become a part of you, not just one moment, but 20 moments. You want to have that experience so we can develop the confidence in our inner wisdom, so that when we're uncomfortable, so when we're kind of stretching ourselves and there's a tension around it, we can go back to that inner wisdom and go, I can tolerate this because I want to try this. I'm not good at it yet, so it doesn't come, it isn't habitual. It doesn't come right away. It's so we have to, learn to tolerate that discomfort. And even when it's new, it's going to be uncomfortable. I mean, this is why familiarity is the whole point. We need to become familiar with our positive qualities. We need to become familiar with the benefits of those. We need to become familiar with our mind. So we keep looking. We don't want to just look for the next 20 minutes. We want to develop a habit where all the time we kind of know what's going on in our mind. And to be able to do that, we need to tolerate, we have to get used to looking. And then we also have to be very unjudgmental. We need real equanimity about what arises. There's all sorts of stuff arise, and we just want to be aware of it. And then we want to kind of go, well, I don't think I even agree with that. So maybe I won't listen to that. Or, yeah, I hear that voice, whatever. I mean, we want to develop our inner wisdom and drop the stories that aren't working for us. So this is, why an awakened mind, a Buddha mind, there's no incorrect states of mind, because from that incorrect state of mind, we have expectations, we have, we have attachments and aversions, and instead of just what is, just what is. It's really a practice. But it has a payoff because the more you can get familiar with where you are in any moment, it really does help you be able to step back and go, what do I want to, do I really want to indulge this state? Or do I want to let it pass? So, because we'll also see all sorts of, wonderful things about our habits when we just pause and look at our minds. Because we have all sorts of, we want to help people. We want people to be free of suffering. We have delight in people's happiness. But there are all sorts of good qualities we have. It's just, we've also got a lot of ignorance. We've got a lot of, mistaken ideas. And it's just that pause to remember, I really don't have to decide to be angry. I can just respond to this information. Move on. It's tricky. Yeah, here it is.
Thank you. I teach fourth grade, so I tend to think of everything in very concretely. And you talked about moments and how moments are kind of let them be equal, and I kind of think of maybe
Okay.
whatever. Like if each emotion is kind of like a Lego block, that we keep them all equal. So whether we're nervous in this one, or happy in this one, or frustrated or resentful or whatever, trying to keep them as like equal size, Lego pieces of block.
Oh, I wouldn't think that would happen.
But I mean, what is that?
No.
Do you keep them?
I think that might be a side effect. But of course that isn't, I mean, the moments are the same in the sense that a moment of mine is a moment of mine. They're not longer moments of mine and shorter moments of mine. It's a moment of mine. What makes disturbing states of mind so powerful is they produce the next moment of that disturbing state of mind, and the next moment of that disturbing state of mind, and the next moment of that disturbing state of mind. And so now you've got this whole series of disturbing states of mind. Okay. So that usually start before we're conscious of it. It's brewing in there, and then we get this little sensation of not being real happy with the situation, and then finally it blows up, But it's recognizing that we want to notice that there's space in between those moments so that we can step back and not continue. Just because this moment of mine was angry, we can step back, let things settle, and produce some moments of calm. We can make that process faster. And then eventually, the more we're practiced at it, those moments of anger don't arise as often. Because we know they are not helpful. And we see the payoff of not having them arise all the time. As long as we keep feeding them, they will.
The reactivity of each emotion being the same, like sort of not reacting to any of them, keeping them all.
Well, just knowing that it's a moment. Right now, I'm nervous about this. Okay, so this is going to pass. It's okay. I was in jury duty on Monday, and I walked out because I was not in the free parking lot, so I wanted to move my car. And I walked out, and nothing was the same. And I was like, "Where's the parking lot?" It was right there. And I said, "Okay, you'll find it." And I walked down a few blocks this way, and I didn't go through the parking lot, and I had that feeling like, what did I do wrong? Why can't I remember where my car is? And I walked the other way, talking myself off the ledge, So eventually I went, okay, I drove down this way, and I did the whole process, and I realized the other side of the building looks exactly like there was the parking lot. But I had to say to myself, you know what? When jury is over, at the end of the day, you can go find your car, you can walk this whole neighborhood, and eventually you'll find your car.
Because that's the truth. And then it's just like, or not. You could say, well, maybe it was towed, But but yeah, this is that awareness and being able to go, okay, it's okay, and come up with a different way of looking at it. And then the fear comes back, and you, oh, really, it's, I'm just, blah, blah, blah. And then, that's exactly what we have to do, especially with habits that are quite ingrained, So I'm like that too. And in terms of worry, like anxiety arises. Oh my God, I'll never find my car, And I finally have learned to just, so what? Okay, so I'm going to have to stand in this parking lot, and I'm afraid of looking like an idiot by just standing here going, yep, don't know where the car is. Nope, yep. And some people might think I'm drunk or stoned or something, but I know I'm not, It's really interesting to let those things, what is it, Oh, I'm embarrassed to have lost my car because, surely that means I'm an idiot, And we have to just let go of all these judgments and these expectations and just go, well, I don't know where it is right now. You know? And I go, oh, this is probably good practice for future Alzheimer's. You know, I need to develop comfort with having no clue. So, you know, it's because we are suffering in those moments. We need to recognize that those moments of fear and anxiety and sadness, we are suffering, you know, and we can free ourselves from that because it is our conversations, our habitual reactions that are creating that suffering, you know. So it's a process of self-care. Really letting ourselves, you know, feel, oh, okay, there it is. And then I can't stress enough how much more fun it is if you have a sense of humor about it. It's really helpful. So, because we really are hilarious. When you start looking at your mind like it's a sitcom, it is quite funny. Yeah.
Sometimes I give thanks for the rough stuff because I couldn't polish myself without them.
Yeah. And that's something really worth remembering. You know, it's like in these moments, I mean, in fact, all of our good qualities come from those moments. You know, somebody wants something from us and we're kind of going, you know, this is where our good qualities come. And sometimes that person that is giving us the condition is ourselves. You know, so in those moments, you really can think, you know, wow, all these people who are losing their memories have this fear, and it sucks. And you could really have empathy for how that feels and how much suffering there is in that moment. But we have tools to let go of that kind of suffering, at least in a moment. But that's all right. Moments add up. In case you haven't noticed, you know, you're no longer 3 weeks old. The moments add up.
But they say that there are more moments than big events in your life.
Yes, it's all just moments. You know, there are very few big events in our lives. You know, hence why we get, you know, addicted to sensations, entertainment. And, you know, we keep thinking that that's what life is, are the big events. And meanwhile, we miss the moments. So that's not skillful for ourselves. So it's a hard habit to break. And it comes from grasping. This idea, if we grasp, we won't lose those moments. And it's the opposite. The grasping, because what we're grasping at doesn't exist. Instead of what does exist, which is right there. So. All right. Introduce yourselves to each other before we run out of time. Say hello. Say, my name is. And Nathan and David, what kind
They are.
I'm Yelena. Well, we probably don't know it, so we probably need to put a sign if we know. Okay. Y'all know each other. Very good.
But I know there's situations you're talking about, very
But it doesn't have to be. Life is complicated. How we respond to it doesn't have to be. You know, that's all it is complications. Endless complications. Mary Liz. Mark?
Yes.
Dave. Dan. Debbie. John. Yolanda? Yelena. That's pretty. Hope. Priscilla. You were lying about just me. Francesca, Anthony, Marianne running off, Lou, Denise, Beata, Ralph. We have 2 Ralphs. That's might be a record. So, Nathan, David, John, and Gina. Okay. Sort of great. It's a small group today. I only take these risks when I, So, okay. So, did you have a question?
Oh, I was just
Yeah.
more of a joke of all this other stuff to work on. I agree, but save the delusions that make me feel content and happy. To work on those at the end,
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if it worked that way, Unfortunately, it's the delusions that make us miserable. This is what's so funny. Oh yeah, pretty much always. We just haven't waited long enough. So, it's really interesting. So, but it isn't things like love's not a delusion. Compassion's not a delusion. Generosity is not a delusion. Kindness is not a delusion. Patience is not a delusion. They're not founded on incorrect information. Anger is founded on an exaggeration of negative qualities. It's inaccurate. It's not true. Attachment is an exaggeration of positive qualities. It's inaccurate. It's not true. Grasping at permanence. It's an inaccurate state of mind. Nothing is impermanent. Nothing is permanent. So it's not that there isn't anything to rely on. It's that we rely on things that aren't reliable. Incorrect states of mind deceive us. So we want to uncover that deception so that we don't rely on it. And it's a process. So yes, this week, Death and Rebirth starts. That's our Thursday night Discovering Buddhism. So the month of October will be Death and Rebirth. So that gives you a little idea. So if you're interested in Buddhism, that gives you some more information about this idea of cyclic existence, that we have birth, death, rebirth, death, within this kind of existence, and explains about that. So it's a very helpful to understanding a lot of the Buddhist teachings. So you don't have to buy into it. It's just that if you're reading Buddhist texts, it's helpful to understand what they're talking about. But and it also can be, it's a good reminder that, thinking about death isn't about depressing ourselves. It's about recognizing and rejoicing and having gratitude in every moment we're here. So it's like in the morning we can wake up and go, oh, I can wake up. I'm still here. And I, still have a human body. Oh, this is good. So, it may not be a perfect one, but, good enough. So it's really about helping us come from that place of, yay, I'm alive. Let's use this time well. Don't just plow through this day, just to forget it again, and not really experience it. And then another day's gone. Bam, lost. It's really interesting because the more mindful you are, moment to moment, your life doesn't pass without you living it. So it's richer. Then on Saturday, we have an animal blessing and liberation at Quiet Rivers. Is that what it's called? Quiet Waters Park, off of Power Line. It's like costs $1.50 to get in. And so and so if you have pets that are transportable and controllable, so please come. We set up an altar, and because the teachings say that just even seeing representations of holy beings, of enlightened beings, of mantras can create the cause to have a good rebirth in the next life. And so even though we may think our pets have the best kind of rebirth, they can't work on their minds. So it can help them have a human rebirth in the future. And if they've given you all this love and kindness and wonderful attention and all this kind of stuff, then they're creating, lots of generosity karma, so they'll have good resources, so this is a good thing. So it can bless their minds. Then we're also going to take worms that were going to be used as bait in fishing and release them in the park to protect them at least from the hooks and fish. But obviously they're going to die anyway, but that's not the point. It's about taking care of them and perhaps giving them better conditions in this life. So we do a lot of blessings for them as well to help protect them. And so we need help, packing up the altar and bringing it over there and then setting it up. So we start at 10 so that we can all say certain mantras and blessings and prayers, for all the creatures that are there. And you walk your pet around the altar a few times to bless them. And it's kind of just fun, And you can bring your kids and have them walk the pets around, and then they can release some worms. And these kinds of practices are said to be, if you have a lot of sickness or illness, that protecting someone's life, like the worms, it counters, because the cause of sickness, according to the Buddha, is having harmed others, particularly physically, so that in this life, you're experiencing a lot of illness. And so then, rescuing the worms and protecting them from certain death, is a way to practice a different kind of mind. So it's a perspective like this. So that can be a benefit. I'm reading my list. Nicole's not here this weekend. So tomorrow's October 1st. Okay, so tomorrow night, Jackie's class on visualization meditation starts. So these are the kinds where you are visualizing a Buddha and imagining lighting things. So it's another style of meditation that's very popular in Tibetan Buddhism. So, and Jackie's a lovely meditation Buddha. And so that will be for the month of October, and I think there's a flyer about it. And then next Sundays, on the first Sunday of the month, we're not doing bring your own lunch Sundays anymore. But what we're doing instead is for newcomers who have had burning questions about this or that, and they haven't asked during classes or whatever, for them to stay afterwards and, stump the teacher, So I could go, oh, gee, I don't know. That's kind of fun all by itself. So it just, but if you have questions about the altar or about, sorry, I can't help it. Tonkas, whatever, colors, it's, so I'll do my best to answer those things. And also just any old kind of question, and I can say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer that. So, choice. There's choices on both sides. So anyway, so that's next Sunday. So that's it, right?
Yeah, we have a sign-up sheet out there for the animal blessing if anybody wants to help. And then we'll get in touch with you and let you know how you can help us.
Yeah, it's just various things. A lot of it's just parking up an altar.
Getting it set up.
And then getting it set up and filling
the
order bowls and all that kind of stuff. So we would greatly appreciate it.
So we have a song members celebrating birthday this week. Paris, her fiance, great service for our community, and I've been really enjoying becoming more part of the community lately. And so one of the things we're doing today is we're going to be celebrating his birthday with lunch down at Casa Maya, and doing a Mexican restaurant right next door. It's really terrific. So it's on your own, but still, we'd love it if you
join us.
Join us as you like. Venerable Chen will be joining us. I think it's already committed. So hopefully, and there's cake. So.
Oh, well, I'm there.
Right after.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rejoice that there's cake in our future. And right, but that's the pertinent questions here. Okay, let me get dressed again. All right. I'm really having trouble. Okay, so what we want to do is rejoice that, we set an intention to come to this class. We, try to use our time well. And so this is considered a positive activity. Anything we're doing, trying to understand how things exist, how our mind is, how we can reduce our suffering, all these things are positive activities. And according to the Buddha, those will provide positive results in the future, and pleasant experiences, things that we need, all that kind of stuff. And we want that to last, we don't want it just to ripen for ourselves. We want these positive results to ripen for all suffering sentient beings. So until they're all enlightened and nobody's, and then there's an absence of suffering, which I hear is like bliss. I don't have personal knowledge of that. So let's read the dedication prayers on 246. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those who with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people benefit each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
Sorry, I
Oh, enjoy.
When they go from live streaming, when do they have